Thanks for staying with us. So, White Cane Safety Day is celebrated annually today, October 15th, as an international observance to recognize the importance of the white cane as a tool for independence for the blind and the visually impaired. Joining us to discuss more about this is the Chairman, Board of Governors, Vocational Training Center for the Blind Initiative of the FNSBO Council member, Federal Nigeria Society of the Blind. We have Ayopeju Njideaka. Welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thank you very much.
So let's start with white cane. What does that mean? What was the idea of this day?
Okay, so white cane started in fact, it was just an ordinary cane, but in 1931, a French lady decided to paint hers white so that the motorists and pedestrians will see it and it'll be easy for her to move around. The cane was adopted in 1934 in the US, and then by 1964, it became a national day. So the white cane is actually what helps the visually impaired move around. It's pretty much their symbol of independence, symbol of mobility. So that's what the white cane is about. Unfortunately, around here, most people don't know what it means. In other climes, once you see someone hold the cane, you know this person is visually impaired. If he or she needs help, you support. But around here, you have transporters, bus drivers who just drive, they zoom off. Once you see, they zoom off, thinking that they are beggars or other things. So that's why we always try and celebrate this so that people get to know.
Okay. Yeah. So what's the theme for today's, for this year's, yes?
Okay, so the theme for this year is navigating towards independence. Oh, nice. That's what it is.
So you mentioned something, and I think that one of the things we love to do on the show is to highlight so that people are educated. Because even I, as much as I understand about visually impaired people, I didn't understand the significance of what a white cane means. What is the expected help we're supposed to give to someone with white cane? And if there's someone that is visually impaired watching us, can you educate them on what the white cane does for them as well?
Okay, so the white cane helps them feel their surrounding. So they tap as they go along, and if there's a gutter, if there's anything along the line, they move away from it. Now, what we can do to help them is help them do things like cross the road, help them cross gutters, just help them move around better, or warn them if there's any danger ahead. So that's basically what we can do. And the reason we're pushing this is that the generality of people don't understand this, and I'm glad you've said, oh, educate them, particularly bus drivers, NURTW. A visually impaired person is not a beggar. Generally, they're not beggars. They're also not mentally retarded. So when they get on buses, they have their fare. If you choose to be generous and not take it from them, it's your choice. But generally, they have them, and then they are often educated. These are people, and that's what we do as an institution anyway. So we are the Vocational Training Center for the Blind, founded by the Federal Nigeria Society for the Blind. And what we do is take people who go blind in adolescence or adulthood. So we don't take on people who are born blind. Now, going blind in adolescence or adulthood is a very difficult situation because it comes with all sorts of emotional problems, depression. Some of them attempt suicide. It's a total change in life. So that's why it's important.
Going back to what Amaka said earlier, like this year's theme, what are you doing? What's the society doing today to celebrate white cane?
Okay, so on the 26th of October, we're going to have a walk, an advocacy walk, and we're going to set out from Lasema. Lasema is along Kappa Road in Oshodi. And we'll walk to Ayopeju and then back to Lasema. We're going to have on offer eye tests, educate people, and then you can actually get to interact with these blind people to understand what their pain is, to understand what support they require.
Wouldn't it be interesting that everybody holds a white cane on that day and walk and act like, you know, because you need that day to walk like them, to live like them and experience
the experience. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
And take
Let us try and that walk.
Try it. That would be fantastic.
I think it would be great for so we can cover that and then see how nice. So Nigerians like these guys exist. Our job is to support them.
I love what you said about.
Okay.
So what inclusive policies and regulations do you think there needs to be in place for them to, be parts of sport, the society, different sectors?
Okay, let's start with the one that is available that people don't follow. So there's a law that says every institution, every organization should employ 5% of persons with disabilities. And that could cover the visually impaired or whoever it is you want. Then schools are expected to be inclusive. There's no, for some situations, it's expected that mainstream schools should be able to take them in. And that means that if you have children who are visually impaired, you should be able to walk up to any school and have them go in. Because I keep saying it, visual impairment is very different from mental disability. That they cannot see doesn't mean, and the beauty of life is once they lose sight, they can actually get it from other senses. Other senses become heightened. For instance, their sense of hearing is amazing. I walk into the center and I just say good afternoon and they respond, oh, chairman, good afternoon. It's amazing. And so those are the sorts of things. And then daily, when you go to the mall, you see a visually impaired person walk into your shop or wherever, they're not there to beg. Oftentimes they are embarrassed. They walk into a company. In fact, one of the executive students shared something with me that happened in a church in Oshodi. I won't mention the name of the church. He had gone out and was tired and just wanted to rest for a few minutes. Then he walked into this church and somebody rushed at him and said, no, you can't stay here. He said, I'm not begging. And they said, no, we don't want you here. I'm not kidding.
Oh,
and this happened a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my, this is quite recent.
Very recent, very recent.
So they already judged the person as a beggar coming to the church.
Yes.
So on the, she mentioned about government policies and all of that, but I realized that it's easy to just point towards the government when we are also not informed or we're not doing our part to support in the advocacy. So I'm now, when you spoke about the number of people that should be employed, is there a way to educate those that are living with this sight, their disabilities or that are blind, and let them know their right to seek jobs, and if they don't get the job based on their sight, is there anything that can be done to ensure that they are not unfairly not given the opportunity because of their sight?
Unfortunately, organizations cannot be compelled. You know how they find a way around it. And people can say, okay, we'd rather not take a visually impaired person, we'd rather take this person. So what we as an organization do, number one, we empower them. Once you come to the center, we teach you how to use the computer. We generally make you more employable. So that's the first instance. And then we write to different organizations to please take them on first and foremost for internship. By the time they intern with you, you can design. For instance, our executive students, these are professionals who have gone blind in adulthood. Imagine one of them is a lawyer, we have an engineer, yes. So what we're doing with them is make sure we equip them with skills that they can function well. So the lawyer is actually about to go back into practice, starting off with an internship. So that's what we do. For us as an organization, we're always churning out things on our social media platforms. We're always contacting organizations, and we're actually open to membership. Right. So we have people who join us and just campaign, advocate on our behalf.
Well, you're not physically impaired, so why are you in this? What's in it for you? Or why are you involved in it?
For me, it's voluntary service. I always say I'm not giving back because I'm not sure anybody really gave me anything, but it's out of a compassionate heart. I was invited by a senior, what should I call her? Let me say an egbon of mine, Mrs. Adefisayo. She invited me to that platform, and I joined first and foremost as an educator, and then one thing to the other. And I found out that it's just something I'm passionate about. I like people learning. I like self-development. So anything to support that. And this is a unique one. It's very fulfilling, very rewarding.
Yes, so what facilities do you have or things you have in place in terms of their mental health? Because, for example, I had an issue where I'm living with my myasthenia gravis, and one of the symptoms had affected my left eye, and I was having double vision and falling down and stuff, and had to wear a patch at some point. But then I was living in the UK, and they would ask you if you need somebody or help and stuff. And then it really affected the fear that was going blind, because I had to keep seeing the optician. I had prisms in my glasses to the highest level of prisms. Yes, and at some point I felt like a lab rat, right? So it really affected my mental health and emotional health. So what facilities are in place to help people like that are going through that?
And also, if someone around, if a mother or a sister of someone who just turned blind needs help, how do you?
Okay, so two things. I'll take the first one first. So we do have a part-time psychologist. I did mention that blindness in adolescence or adulthood comes with a lot of psychological challenges. So we have a psychologist in-house who caters to the mental health needs of our trainees, as we call them. Then on the board, we have a number of people. For instance, I'm a credentialed coach, so I reach out to colleagues who offer free service to them. And also, right now we're appealing. I know there's ICF, one or two people are probably listening. And there are other organizations as well. We're open to receiving, donation doesn't always have to be in cash. I mean, that's support as well. That's it. And then for people, if you notice anybody, and don't wait till you go blind. Once they start walking into things, let's start doing the needful. But we are situated in Oshodi. And I did share details, so if possible, if you can share, just come to Federal Nigeria Society for the Blind, and then you make inquiries. Our annual intake is January. We have various programs that we support.
People stay there?
Yes. We have capacity.
Like a school, like a hostel?
It is a school. It's an institution.
Wow.
So we have various sites. And the other thing, we empower them. There's a lot of vocational training going on. For instance, this adire was made by our trainees.
Kidding.
Oh, yes. We make lovely adire. They learn to bead. And then we have two initiatives. One is the Seeing Fingers and the Seeing Voices. Seeing Voices is a band. It's amazing. When you hear them play, you know, one of the things that helps people who have issues is music. So we have a whole music department where they learn how to play the keyboard, the guitar, whatever instrument you want to learn. And then we have the vocational side, which also helps.
Let's talk a bit about advanced learning, because you know, so they'll say there's some lawyers amongst you.
Yes.
But there's some people that they don't want to be confined to those skills, that is the tailoring, the bead making, you know. They want to go to regular school. They want to do technology. They want to do data analysis. They want to do business development. They want to be like a regular person and work. Are those opportunities there too?
Absolutely. I did mention the adolescents. So what we do with those ones, they come in, if you want to go back to school, even if you haven't done WAEC, we have a secondary school we partner with. Okay. So you start to learn that. You are learning Braille, you are learning ICT skills, and you're also taking your normal subjects. We've had students graduate from universities like UNN, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, University of Lagos. In fact, we have an instructor who came to the center from the center. He went to university. He studied, I believe, sociology. He's back there as an instructor. Wow. So it's not always about the vocational skills. The vocational, even the lawyer is learning to make tie and dye out of choice. Yeah. So some of those things are quite therapeutic. So you learn the book side, you learn the academic, the professional side, and then you do something. The more they do, even without their side, the more empowered, the more fulfilling it is for them.
I remember you mentioned that sometimes to help them integrate into workplace, you put them into internship. I know that when people get visually impaired, like you mentioned earlier, we see that they are heightened in other areas, and they probably have, maybe can do voiceovers or can be, like,
we have one here.
Yes. Is it possible to have somebody to approach your organization to say, I would like to bring an intern from your organization into my company just to get that experience? And what will be the skills that you already have people available to do right now?
So elocution is one thing that we look at. They do English, so they learn to speak. They know how to use the computer. If you're doing voiceovers, there are things. And then they know how to use the most basic tool we all have, the phone. So they do all sorts with their phones. So for any organization, that won't be a problem. We've had media companies approach us where our students have been in to intern, to design, and do things like that for them. So we're constantly open, and we'll probably take you up on that.
But honestly,
have some
I'm really
of them
impressed
come.
because the narrative that many Nigerians, blind, there's nothing will happen to you, just be blind, you just be there. But it's good to hear that there is an institution that caters for that sector.
Yes.
And we hope that with this show, you're able to get more support.
Yes.
Now, how do you get funding? Federal government, I assume? The government?
No, we're
The
called
private-
Federal Nigeria Society for the Blind, but it is a private organization.
Oh, I didn't know.
The federal in front of it started when the founders put it together with one thing in mind, to bring everybody from all over Nigeria.
Oh, so you're not government funded?
No, we're not.
So just
Private donation.
Private donations,
Wow.
the same fingers. Oh, no, we raise funds privately. And that's something we keep saying. The organization is going to be 70 years next year. So you can imagine the challenges we've been
you say there's no federal...
No.
Not federal funding. Is there a federal institution of such also available?
Government back. I'm sure there are several institutions for the visually impaired. I'm sure there are places they can go to. But we're not aware of a federal one that does what we do. Remember, we're specialized. Youth and adults.
Yeah.
We're clear about that. You have other institutions that take on children and they go all the way. But for us, because that's a specialized area, someone who's been doing well and suddenly loses his or her sight.
Well, have you had institutions where because somebody who is visually impaired is also worried about love, falling in love, having a life, having married, having children, because they always feel like my life is cut off. I mean, I can't do anything else. So are there opportunities where they meet each other? Do you do weddings or you just give them skills and let them go?
No. So one of the things that happens is a human being is a human being. Once you have blood flowing, love will happen.
Yeah.
So we've had instances where you see two trainees and you know that there's something,
Something is
going on.
happening.
Yes. And I remember one of them saying, well, he's blind, but he can see with other things. So they do get married. I mean, we've had ex-trainees get married and then we'll support. I mean, people will attend the wedding and all
They
that.
have children? And
Oh, yes. I mean, the place where a child sits in the body of a woman is so far away from the eyes, nothing. So, they do have
good to know these things because sometimes we always judge from
and
outside.
we have married instructors. We have one who is visually impaired. In fact, she works with some radio station and she has her children. Her children are not visually impaired. We have another instructor who's visually impaired. He went blind in the university, and he has 2 sets of twins.
Love is blind, they say.
And his wife is not visually impaired. So there are all sorts of stories.
That's really beautiful.
Yes.
I would like you to reiterate the fact that visually impaired people are not beggars, just so that people would
we have to wrap
stop
up.
looking at them
Let's
that
us
way.
end with that and also remind us of the theme of this year.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So the theme for the year is navigating the road to independence. Visually impaired people are not, they're not mentally handicapped. They're like you and I. Imagine you stepping out of your house, God forbid, as we say in this area, and then you go out fully sighted, you come back, you can't see anymore. So when we meet them, please remember the fact that they're holding that cane does not mean they're begging for money. They may need your assistance to help them cross the road or anything that any young person could need, but please support them. They're not begging.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
all we can take on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. Thank you.
Njideaka has been our guest.
Yeah.
That's all we can take. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.